Welcome back to Movie Recap. Today, I'll share with you a pre-code mystery film from 1933, The Kennel Murder Case, starring William Powell and Mary Astor. Powell's role as Philo Vance is not the actor's first performance as the aristocratic sleuth. He also portrays the character in 3 films produced by Paramount in 1929 and 1930. Spoilers ahead. Watch out and take care. At the Long Island Kennel Club, there is hustle and bustle at a dog show. The announcer announces the dogs that have made it into the final round, which is supposed to be held the following day. Philo Vance's dog does not make it into the final. A fellow competitor, Archer Coe, is disappointed, having hoped to savor a victory over Vance. Archer Coe's dog is to compete with his niece Hilda's dog. She poses for the camera with her dog. Her uncle, Archer Coe, watches her. Then she takes her dog to the groomer and compares it to Archer Coe's dog. Everybody has a view that her dog is going to win. Archer Coe enters and Hilda suggests that she will place a bet on her dog. Archer rudely tells her that he isn't going to lend her any money to do so and that she will be grateful to him one day for saving some for her future. She tells her boyfriend, Mr. McDonald, that she hates her uncle for the things he has done to her. Back at the house, Brisbane, Archer's brother, talks to Archer's secretary, Raymond Reed, while he takes a book, Unsolved Murders, from the bookshelf to read on his journey. His train leaves at 5. Archer comes home and tells the butler, Gamble, to call Brisbane. Gamble tells Brisbane and he sends a message back to Archer saying he doesn't want to see him. Reed says it isn't a good idea. However, Brisbane casually reminds Reed about Archer's reaction when he showed his liking towards Hilda as they walk out of the room. On his way out, Gamble tells Brisbane that he waited to give his message to Archer when he has safely left the house. Brisbane makes it to the train station at 4:45. Hilda and McDonald are called by the dog caretaker as their dog, Gilly, is missing. Soon, they find the dog dead outside. McDonald swears to kill the man who did it. McDonald calls Archer as he suspects he would have done it. Hilda says that Archer might be a despicable man, but he can't do such a thing. Gamble picks up the phone and tells him that Mr. Archer isn't home. When told about the situation, he finds the number for Doris Delafield to locate Mr. Archer. At Doris's apartment, she screams at Archer and tells him to get out of there. Her dog barks outside the bedroom door. Archer leaves, telling Doris that he will not return. In the corridor, Archer runs into Eduardo Grassi. Grassi tells Archer that the deal has been finalized with Milan Museum for $17,000. Archer has a collection of Chinese artwork which he wanted to sell. However, Archer tells Grassi that he will destroy their contract that night as he has found out that Doris has been cheating on Archer with him. Archer comes home and finds Lang, Archer's cook, looking at his Chinese artwork collection. Archer tells him angrily that he should be found in the kitchen. Lang tells Archer that he has overheard his deal of the artwork. He wants to resign as he has worked long, hard, and illegally to help Archer amass his collection. He warns Archer against the proposed sale. Archer fires him. The next morning, Gamble brings breakfast for Archer, and when he doesn't open the door after several knockings, he peeps through the keyhole. Archer is sitting in a chair, dead, holding a gun. Gamble quickly tells Archer's secretary, Mr. Reed, who tells him to inform the police. The police sergeant, Heath, follows the lead and makes way to Archer's house. The media is informed, and Vance hears the news on radio at a train station. He calls the district attorney, Markham, and asks about the news. Markham assumes it was suicide because Archer was found holding a pistol in a locked room. Vance suggests that he met Archer the day before and he didn't look like a man who would commit suicide. Markham doesn't agree with Vance's ideas. However, Vance cancels his trip to Italy to pursue the case. On their way to Archer's house, Vance discusses his first suspect of the murder with Markham, since Gilly, McDonald's dog, competing against Archer's dog, was found dead the night before Archer's suicide. Vance says that if someone killed his dog, he might also turn into a murderer. They reach the house where Sergeant Heath greets them. He has kept the investigation on hold until they arrive. Going upstairs, Vance asks Gamble how long he had been working there. He tells him that he has been there for 3 months and was unemployed before that. Sergeant Heath breaks the door with the help of Officer Tennessee. Vance looks around. Heath asks Reed and Gamble if they carry a gun. Gamble says he does for the security of the household. However, the gun in Archer's hand belongs to Archer, which he saw the previous morning in the drawer downstairs. Vance looks around and notices all the windows have been locked too. He sends Reed and Gamble downstairs. Heath and Markham believe it is an open and shut case of suicide. However, Vance believes it to be a murder set up to look like a suicide. He looks around for evidence. However, Vance manages to get their attention to his theory as he points out Archer's shoe half off. Heath asks him to explain the locked door from inside to prove his theory. Hilda arrives and is told about Archer's suicide. Reed takes her upstairs as Lang watches. When Hilda sees her uncle, she suggests that he would never commit suicide. When Vance asks, who does she suspect would commit his murder? Hilda says that she could have done it as she hated him. She tells them that she resented her uncle's tight control of her finances and jealousy of any men who showed interest in her. Vance asks her who else she thinks that can be suspected. She says Lang the cook can be suspected as he was upset about him selling the precious Chinese artworks. She also tells them that her uncle, Brisbane, also disliked Archer. Vance asks her to write Brisbane to inform him about the incident. Sergeant Heath calls the train station and confirms that Brisbane had a booking for the train to Chicago at the time of the murder. He sends a wire to the train to confirm that Brisbane was on board the train. Downstairs, Reed asks Hilda why she is acting cold towards him lately. He suggests that now that her uncle is dead, they could get married. However, Hilda tells Reed that she never promised to marry him and that when all this is over, she will marry her boyfriend, Thomas MacDonald. The journalists outside the house debate about it being a murder or a suicide. Coroner, Dr. Doremus, arrives. At the first glance, he also assumes it to be a suicide. However, when he looks closely, he says that there is a strong blow on his head. However, this blow could have rendered him unconscious but wouldn't be able to kill him. Vance suggests that there is no blood around the bullet hole in his head, to which Dr. Doremus suggests that he had been dead long before he was shot in the head. The journalists take a picture of the dead body and then it is transferred to the bed for Dr. Doremus to find the actual cause of Archer's death. He determines that the victim had bled to death internally from a stab wound. Vance shows a bullet hole and blood in Archer's jacket to Markham and Heath, presumably suggesting that he was changed into his pajamas after getting killed. Dr. Doremus leaves. Thomas MacDonald arrives at the site. Hilda tells him that he shouldn't have come there as they'll question him. He confidently says that he knows all the answers. However, Hilda tells him to escape through the window before anyone sees him. Vance overhears and tells MacDonald to be wary of the journalists on his way out. MacDonald says that he didn't want to escape. When Vance asks him if he had talked to Archer about his dog's killing before Archer's death, MacDonald says that he would have killed him if he had. The train conductor sends back a wire confirming that Brisbane wasn't on board the Chicago train. When they receive the wire, they investigate Gamble. Gamble tells them that he left with enough time to board the 5 o'clock train. Vance asks Gamble of how he can be sure that he went to Chicago. Gamble says that he handed over his favorite club stick and his bag to him when he was leaving. Vance brings Brisbane's stick and asks if that was the stick he took with him. Gamble seems confused as he says it was the same stick that Brisbane took with him. Vance asks him about the bag and suspects they would find it at the train station, and they do. Sergeant Heath brings it back to Markham and Vance, who check his belongings. Vance finds the unsolved murders and a bookmarked page about how the killer locked the door from inside with a needle and a string through the keyhole. Brisbane Coe becomes Vance's prime suspect. Vance goes to ask Gamble where he'd usually hang his coat. Gamble points towards the closet. When Vance opens the closet, the dead body of Brisbane falls out, leaving Vance puzzled. Dr. Doremus is called again, interrupting his lunch. He reveals that Archer was killed first and then Brisbane. Both were killed with the same stick. Vance goes to Archer's room to try out the door lock. Lang comes in and Vance hides behind the door. He places the stick in the ottoman and leaves. Vance finds the stick after him and Lang realizes there was someone in the room. Vance solves one part of the mystery by demonstrating the method of using string to lock a door through the keyhole without leaving a trace. He tells Markham and Sargent that there were 2 people who sought to murder Archer that night. One of them was Brisbane, and Vance suspects the other one is the cook, Lang. The journalists let Vance's dog out of the car and he starts barking at a closet. Vance opens it to find Miss Delafield's dog badly wounded, apparently struck with a fireside poker. which leads them to Miss Delafield, who is surprised to learn that Archer was murdered. Sergeant Heath picks up the ringing phone. She has reserved cruise tickets for herself and Grassy. Heath cancels their reservations and arrests Grassy from the museum. All suspects' fingerprints are taken. Only Lang's fingerprints are identified on a vase. At midnight, Vance continues to search in Archer's bedroom for the dagger that killed the Coe brothers. Vance finds a lipstick with the name Hilda Lake on it. Then he finds the broken pieces of the most valuable antique vase. Outside, they find footsteps of someone and take samples. Vance summons Reed to ask about the missing vase. He tells Vance that he saw it in its place the evening before when he came to talk to Archer for permission to marry Hilda. He then went to see Hilda at the kennel, but she had left. He came back and went straight to bed. However, he heard Lang entering the hallway, although he usually isn't very noisy. Vance goes to the kitchen and peeps through the air vent and finds Lang gluing the broken vase together. Heath comes in and Vance asks him to bring Markham. When asked about the vase, Lang says that he found the broken vase and wanted to mend it only. In his defense, Lang says that he only found the vase in the dump this morning and wanted to fix it. When Vance tells him that he was in the room when he hid the poker in the chest, Lang confesses that he saw the mess in the library and Archer dead in his room that night. However, he hid the poker and the broken vase to save himself of suspicion because he was the only one at home that night. Sergeant Heath is about to arrest him when an officer brings the broken piece, revealing that it has Grassy's fingerprints on it. Later, they find the footprints outside the back door, also belonging to Grassy. Grassy explains that he came to talk Archer into the deal he was rejecting to continue. Archer, however, broke the vase, saying that he'd rather break them all instead of making a deal which would benefit Grassy. However, they arrest Grassy. Ms. Delafield comes to Vance through the back door and confesses that she killed Archer and that she will tell the rest to the court. Vance shows her the lipstick, asking if it belongs to her. She confidently says yes. When her dog followed her, her purse fell and the lipstick fell out of it. Vance says that he knows she is just trying to confuse the law by making a false confession in order to save Grassy. Meanwhile, an attempt is made on the life of Sir Thomas MacDonald using the same dagger used to kill the Coe brothers. Vance goes upstairs and sees the window across and finally solves the mystery of how the crime was committed. He explains to Markham and Heath that two men sought to end Coe's life that night. The successful murderer struggled with Coe and stabbed him, leaving him for dead. The murderer was followed by Delafield's dog as he left the back door open. Coe awakened soon after. Too dazed to recall the fight or realize that he was mortally wounded, he went upstairs to his bedroom and opened his window before dying. Brisbane entered the chamber. Seeing his brother apparently asleep in his chair, he shot the corpse and arranged the scene to look like a suicide. Downstairs, he ran into the actual killer, who had seen through a window that Archer Coe was still alive and come back to finish the job. In the darkness, the killer mistook Brisbane for Archer and killed the wrong man. Delafield's dog then wandered in, attracted by the commotion, and attacked the murderer. While sure of the killer's identity, Vance has no proof. He asks Markham to release all the suspects. Markham tells Heath to do it. Vance arranges for a plan depending on the killer's instincts to prove him right. Sir Thomas and Hilda plan their wedding when Reed walks in. He starts to quarrel with Sir Thomas over Hilda. Delafield's dog has recovered and is brought to the house. When Reed instinctively reaches for the poker to strike his rival, the dog recognizes its attacker and leaps on him. Reed confesses he became enraged when Archer refused to assist his courtship of Miss Lake, precipitating the stabbing. He killed Brisbane by mistake, and he attacked MacDonald as he hated him. The case is solved, and Heath tells Vance that he would mention his name in the press release. If you love mystery movies, this one is a must-watch. Like this video, and let us know in the comments what movies you would like to be recapped. Subscribe for more videos. See you soon.